Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. And again, if you're new here, big thing that we do is take a look at how can we optimize your body so that you can go and serve and do everything else that you want, so that you can truly own your habits and realize the potential that's inside of you. Every single one of us, high performing entrepreneurs, 8, 9, 10 figure that we've worked with, have all realized these different components of their life and how they can impact them to ultimately do what they want to do, which is get more family time, more wealth, more prosperity, more longevity, more health, all of these things that they're trying to create and know that there's more inside. How do we release that potential? It's by doing the things we talk about here. And today we're diving into nutrient absorption and what happens at that cellular level. Because so often than not, we don't know how to navigate this. What supplements do I take? What nutrition do I have? What do I need to fuel my body, fuel this machine properly? And so we're going to talk a little bit about the difference between a blood serum test, which 95% of the time is what we're getting when we go to the doctor, when we're looking into things, and a cellular micronutrient deficiency test. What the difference is between intracellular, extracellular, blood serum, and how this all interacts. So be sure to like, subscribe, comment below so that we can get more information to you and you can get notified when it comes. So with that, I'm going to kind of pop over here into a screen. So what I want to talk about is the difference between intracellular, extracellular, and ultimately blood serum testing. So intracellular is what's happening inside the cell. Extracellular is what's happening outside the cell. And then serum is simple blood levels. And we need to also know, why are we interested in understanding the difference between red blood cells and what happens here and white blood cells? So we're going to go through this. So the reason that we want to take a look at what's happening intracellularly is because that's where the mitochondria lives. That's where the powerhouse of all of the cell lives. This is where we utilize and fluctuate the nutrients. When we take in carbohydrates, proteins, fats, and they go through these different processes called the Krebs cycle, it ultimately creates what we call ATP, okay? Energy, cellular energy, energy to think, energy to process information, energy to run marathons, energy to sit here and flail my arms around and talk to you guys. So all of these things take energy that comes from the inside of the cell. And oftentimes, the only thing we're measuring is outside of the cell. Now, again, the blood serum, the reason this can often happen and why it's negative is because when we take a look at what occurs in the serum level in the blood, it's really only taking a look at different types of nutrients that are floating around free radical within the bloodstream. So we could have just had a vitamin D3 supplementation and our blood serum levels could be really high. Or if it's a fat soluble vitamin, it may be broken down a little bit quicker. But inside the cell, it doesn't matter what you're supplementing. It doesn't matter the speed and time of it. If there's a breakdown anywhere in the Krebs cycle, anywhere in these different processes that need to occur within the body, they're going to have an impact on what's occurring. And that is why it's so important to know what's going on in our cells. And that's the level of testing that we should be going for, not the extracellular or blood serum type, but rather the intracellular and inside the cell. And that's exactly what we do at Own It, is making sure that we can understand what's going on internally, because in that cell, that's where the mutation happens. That's where those changes happen. That's where chronic illness, chronic disease, chronic micronutrient deficiency happens. Remember, we talk about what Sean Stevenson talks about all the time, where chronic micronutrient deficiency exists, chronic cravings and chronic disease exist. We want to avoid that. And ultimately we can. We have the understanding and the ability to. So why aren't we? Second, I want to talk about the difference of red or white blood cells. Now, our red blood cells, they don't have a nucleus. Our white blood cells do. And that's why when we're doing our intracellular testing, we're also looking at the white blood cell and the health of the white blood cell, the immune function. So we're looking at the way our bodies immunity runs, and also what we're nutrient deficient in so that we can optimize our health, our immune system, our immune function, our energy levels. And that's quite frankly everything that we want. Whereas our red blood cells, it simply has one purpose, which is to carry oxygen. And so we need to make sure that when we are getting tested, when we are looking at things to change the way we're feeling, that we focus on intracellular testing, intracellular micronutrient deficiency, and ultimately white blood cell health. So what I want to take a look at now is I want to take a look at my test that we've actually gone through. And I get these done every 2 months simply to make sure that I can start to adjust the changes that are happening. If we take a look here, I can start to see functional deficiencies that exist within my body. So those are things that are actually going to create issues internally. Basically saying that at the micronutrient level intracellularly, I have a chromium deficiency. I am not using that mineral well. And ultimately, it's creating an issue within my body. Now, we also see here that I have a series of borderline deficiencies. These are not ones that are coming up and saying that there's they're not functional yet, meaning it's not impacting me at a high level yet. So these can truly be supplemented with food. So higher quality types of food that have copper, folate, glutathione, manganese, pantothenate, B2, 6, and 12, and zinc. So focusing on just changing up my diet a little bit based upon these types of food. And that is going to help me in the long run as well. And so if I take this down and scroll down to what we, let me get rid of that box. You guys don't need to see that. If I scroll down to the bottom here and start to take a look at this Krebs cycle, it'll start to make sense as to how this all flows together and why it's so important. Because if we take a look, we take in fats, carbs, and proteins as a part of the Krebs cycle. Vitamin A, beta-alanine, B1, B3, B5, zinc, calcium, all of these micronutrients impact all of the breakdowns of these food into what we call acetyl-CoA to go through the Krebs cycle and the citric acid cycle that ultimately creates energy at the end of the day. So if we are functionally deficient, which we don't see any red dots here for me, because for me at the very top, if we go back up to it, where does my deficiency lie? Specifically within chromium. So again, when we come down here, this is quite frankly why I feel great. I have a lot of energy, but I can still optimize. I can still find that next level. And so I've changed up my diet. I've actually focused on more foods that have vitamin B2, B5, zinc, calcium, copper, different types of foods that are going to also accelerate that type of utilization within the body. So really going to make sure that we are doing things in the right categories here for ourselves and what our body's actually requiring. Then we have what's called the methylation cycle. And this is what everybody talks about when we're talking about aging quickly. And so whether something methylates or whether it doesn't, maybe sometimes you've heard of like the telomere strands on the DNA, the shorter the telomere, the quicker you're aging. And we'll go through that as well on a different video. But what we start to find out here is, okay, if you do not methylate well, if you have an issue with methylation, no matter how much supplementation you take from vitamin B, zinc, calcium, choline, whatever it may be, you are going to not be able to utilize that supplement. So knowing if you have an issue with the methylation cycle is going to understand whether you have detoxification issues, cellular adaptability issues, gene regulation, premature aging, all of these things are going to start to come into play. So knowing this data and knowing this information of what's happening at that cellular level is so, so important because it's going to give us the guidance, the understanding, and the action steps that are so personalized to you that we no longer have to question as to what's happening, but rather we can truly be so dialed in and educated that it doesn't become a question as to what we're doing, but rather a real true focus. And so from the chromium deficiency that I had, supplementing it, but also focusing a little bit more on these types of foods, okay? And adding them into my dietary regimen. And that looks a little bit more, let me get my tool here, like broccoli, grape juice, different types of beans, apples, stuff like that. So when I talk about in those original frameworks for our 3-2-1 rule, my 2 pieces of fruit, guess what they're now focused on? Apple, banana, and then grapes. That's literally the 3 types of fruits that I've been really focused on getting in, because that's a part of my functional deficiency. And because of that, I'm also supplementing chromium in my regular day, everyday basis. And because I also have a methylation issue, I'm getting a methylated form of it. So this is how it all starts to form together. Now, the other thing that we knew is I had vitamin B issues. And those are just very baseline right now. But if I come up here and we take a look at, just so I can pull this up, let's go to pages 28. So if I go to page 28 and start to take a look at these same types of foods, this is what I'm supplementing: pecans, lentils, oranges, cantaloupe, spinach for B1. We go to B2, chicken, salmon, asparagus, broccoli, eggs, almonds, beef, spinach. B3, same thing. So we actually have a purpose to what we're eating, why we're eating it, and how it can impact all of those other strategies and systems and habits that we're utilizing. So it all comes back to understanding what is going on intracellularly within the body, so we can get more specific and truly realize the potential that's inside of us, because we are not meant to be tired. We're not meant to be fatigued. We're not meant to be just getting by. We're meant to thrive. And that starts with us. Success is different. So be different and ultimately own it. Again, guys, if this is your first time here, make sure that you subscribe to my channel, comment below, send some messages. We always answer them. Make sure that we can give you the best guidance that we need. If this is something that interests you from an intracellular test, we have everything within Own It. That is how we operate our business. That is how we truly make sure that all of our decisions that we're guiding you through, that we're coaching you through with our functional medicine specialists, all of our coaches, we are utilizing the best so that ultimately you can be at yours. We'll see you next week.